Awesome.
Well, I'm Steve Leibel. I am the sponsor of today. So I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer lawyer. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm glad to be here. So the Chambers, to me, is a very wonderful organization. So kudos to the real McCoy. That's you, and thank you for having me for the talk.
And thank you for sponsoring. Been the sponsor for many months now, and should also note Renaissance Bank is a supporting sponsor for the leadership series. I guess let's just jump in.
Let's jump in.
So why don't rather than me trying to do an intro for you, I know we've known each other a long time. We were talking about Deloniga a moment ago, and a former board chair of this organization, Tracy Moon, introduced me to you
Absolutely, a long time ago.
Some UNG thing, but why don't you tell us your story? We were talking a little bit about it before we started, but it's a fascinating story.
Well, I'm originally from New York City, and at about 19 years of age, when I was about to go to law school, I realized I didn't want to live in New York. So I took a look at the map of the United States and said, where do I want to live? And I picked Atlanta, Georgia. And so I wanted to be a labor lawyer. That was what I wanted to be. I knew that's what I wanted. I was going to do it. I went to Emory Law School. I was going to be a labor lawyer. And actually, when I was in law school, I started becoming involved with the National Labor Relations Board as a representative of people who filed charges. And what's significant about that is you don't have to be an attorney to try cases before administrative law judges at the National Labor Relations Board, but I did. So I was a law student, and I started trying cases. And as a result of trying cases and winning them, the board people asked if I would apply and become an attorney with them. And that's how I started my career as a trial lawyer with the NLRB. My next major situation was that I went to police academy while I was a lawyer. And I did that by going to West Georgia College. And I studied over there and became a reserve sheriff's deputy with the sheriff of Gwinnett County. And then I became his attorney, representing him in a jail lawsuit. That was my first big case as a private lawyer doing that type of work. So from there, I was a police officer, a lawyer, and ultimately became a judge. I did some of that as well. And now what I do is I'm a trial lawyer, and I'm also an entrepreneur, as I've said before. The shopping center where NOFO is, I took that shopping center, rehabbed it, and ultimately they came in, and that's where the NOFO is, up in North Forsyth. I still have an office there, and I'm in Dahlonega. So I live in Dahlonega. I lived in Atlanta. I had an office on 14th Street, which I built, and I like to build things. So if you know of any property that's for sale.
Yes, sir.
And I'd be interested. Yeah. So those are things that I have done, and I'm prepared to answer any other questions, Mr. President.
Oh. Well, so well, that is really, I mean, that's fascinating. That is a broad journey. So obviously the law has been sort of the basis of everything that you've done and sprung from. What first attracted you to being a lawyer? Like, what was the idea what was attractive about that idea?
Well, I can say that after practicing all these years, that it's still attractive to me, yeah. And that you have an opportunity to really help people. Now, I know that sounds like, oh, everybody says I want to help people, but you really can. And you can, this is how our system works. We have three, prongs of government. You have the executive branch, which is like the governor's office, and then you have the legislative, and then you have the courts. Each branch has its own power. And the power to help an individual is usually only in the court system. One man or one woman before a jury of 12 people can actually get things accomplished, whereas you can't any other way. Unless you're in the seat of power, like I ran for State House, Unless you're actually in the government, you don't have that power, but you do in the courts because you have a jury system that can listen to the grievances and actually determine an outcome free of every other branch of government. It's quite amazing, and it's very powerful for people. So when you are a lawyer, and I've done political cases, and I've represented the mayor of Dawsonville, and I've done different types of cases. I represent sheriffs and done different things. You realize how powerful the court system can be and how much you can accomplish. That's what I like about the law. That's the first part. Second part about being an attorney is that it also lets you understand really what the system is all about. You start a business. How do you do it? You have to do zoning. How does that work? You work on various aspects of a business by becoming an attorney. And people always make the mistake of never going to an attorney, looking for the attorney as Dr. Google you would for your medicine. And you would wind up coming to me afterwards instead of spending the money for a consult, and we talk about it, to spend between $10,000 and $100,000 in order for you to get out of the mess that could have been avoided in the first place. So I like that about the law. The other thing about the law that I like is that it allows you to meet so many people, and it allows you to become involved in so many things. I'm on the board, for example, of Heroes of Forsyth, which is a sheriff's organization, and I represent the sheriff. I've been involved with the Pups with Purpose. I've been involved with some of the community organizations here in this area. And because I'm an attorney, I get that opportunity. And so I really enjoy that. I think that's a really important part of being who you are, is that you can give back and then you can still be successful in the things that you do. So I enjoy that a lot. I think that's really important.
So, the whole idea behind this, we generally spend a little time talking about philosophical stuff as it relates to leadership, and then we get down into more practical sides of it. So, on the more of the philosophical side, I mean, as someone who feels that way, is attracted to law that way, how do you view leadership? And because that's a little different than because you are a genuine advocate, that is your role. So then how do you view leadership, and how do you think that might differ from someone else's view?
Well, I don't see it that way. I see it as that each thing that you do demands a different style of leadership.
Yeah.
I did mini storage. That is a different type of leadership in watching what your employees do, trusting them, talking to them, and having communication. I've done volunteer organization work where I listen, and my leadership is actually in the technical aspects and then giving some advice. Whereas I'm not the one who makes that decision. The people I work for make that decision. But the leadership is a role of giving the advice. When you run a business, and a law firm is a business, you have to have collaboration with your people. So what kind of leadership style do you have? Well, what happens is leadership is malleable. One day, one lawyer has leadership. You listen, you argue, you discuss. The other lawyer has leadership. In my firm, we have 3 attorneys. Me, a guy who actually clerked for a federal judge. I did some clerking for a guy, ultimately was on the Court of Appeals. And I have a physician, Lloyd. And so we talk about things, and the leadership comes from experience. The leadership comes from listening and collaboration. That's another style of leadership. And then there's the leadership like with your kids. You got to do this. That's what happened when I created a bank. I had to fire somebody. That's the leadership of taking the reins and doing a decision that's not popular, and you have to do it, and it hurts people's feelings, but you got to do it. So those are the type of different, I think that when people say, can you define leadership? I think it's very difficult because each situation allows for a different leadership style and collaboration if you have collaboration in that particular goal or project. For example, when I built the mini storage, the leadership was, I need this done, I need this done, I need this done. please give me accountability of what you've done. I don't swing a hammer. I mean, I could tell you what to do, but if you ask me to swing a hammer, good luck to you. What kind of project do you have? My wife says, you just don't have the patience for that. And she's absolutely right. But I do have the patience for speaking with people who do have the skills. So you ask them, we put this together, we put this together, we put that together. That's leadership, but it's leadership in a different way and a different style. And I think that people read a lot of books about leadership and I want to be a leader like this one. I think you have to find your own style of leadership that works for you and works for the people that work with you. Because you can't be a Hitler, and you have to be understanding, and you have to appreciate the people that you work with and understand their value. That to me is very important. And tell them that.
So, we've talked a lot in these kind of discussions about there seems to be this spectrum between leaders who have a very clear vision of the future and what they want to do and how they're going to do it, and how to bring people along, and then there are other leaders that are, I'm using this in the most positive sense possible, but are more opportunistic. They say, just like we were talking about earlier, what is in front of me at the moment, and how do I be open to that to move into that area? Both can be very successful, but obviously that is a personal approach and a personal choice. Where do you find yourself on that aspect?
I don't think I find myself at all in that. I have different things that I do. I have different goals that I set for myself. And by doing that, then I say, I'm here, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
How am I going to accomplish that? If somebody came up to me today and said, I have the greatest idea, and I was interested in it, I would say, let me hear more about it. How can we do it? Let's think about how we can get to that point. But everything's a system. You know that. If you want to build something, you put a foundation down and go, and then you build from there and you go forward. So there isn't really any way in which to define it. I guess you kind of run by the seat of your pants in certain things and you do in others. I'll give you an example. If I'm working on a software project with other people, I'm giving encouragement. I'm not in a day-to-day involvement, but I want to know what's going on, and I collaborate by giving information. I have a law practice and I have a case, and each case is like a television show. So I'm the showrunner, and that means that I have to look at the case. I have to determine what elements have to go into the case, and then I have to talk to my team about how we go and fulfill those elements and how we're going to take it to trial. That's a different style and a different way in which to approach things. So are you opportunistic? Well, if I find a great expert witness, yeah, I'll bring them in.
Sure, yeah.
But it's also a thought process of what do you really need, not to not take advantage of things, but it's to focus in on what you need. And then how do you plan to get that project finished, whether it's a case, whether it's an opportunity. And I'll also say, as a lawyer, I always look at due diligence. I like to read things. I want to know what's going to happen. And I also know what my exit strategy is. I like to know what's going to happen as best as you know. So yeah, it's flying by the seat of the pants, not flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say because each business and each project is so different. I think, though, that the common element is respect for the team members, trying to listen and not stepping on somebody, and trying to have a common goal. And if you're not going to be able to make it, talk to the team member and say, look, it's not working out. And then we have to replace that person. It does happen.
Well, and along those lines, that's, we probably, I know I jokingly say this, but I suspect everybody in here has trouble finding talent to sit in a seat, and probably trouble finding talent that stays in the seat once you get them there. Since you've got such a great diversity of experiences of different, everything working with lawyers to construction folks. So are there other universal approaches to keeping people on board and rewarding and
Well, yeah,
encouraging?
I think a lot of it is money. You have to be practical. You can't pay somebody who's an attorney $7.65 an hour. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are looking to foreign workplaces for people to come in and collaborate virtually. In fact, we had done that in 2000 before the pandemic. We had people who virtually worked for us, but it didn't work out the same way. Now people are used to working with other people or team members virtually. How do you keep people? Well, first of all, you have to appreciate them and you have to let them be part of the team. And what I mean by that is to listen to what they have to say and ask their opinion. I think that's important, and to trust them. And if you do that and they like the environment they're in, they're going to be more apt to stay. Now, a lot of times people just can't afford to stay with you because they've been offered incredible opportunities. And I've seen that in my practice. So you just say, I want to wish you the best. I thank you for being here. If you ever need anything, give us a call, and just do things like that, because you're big boys and girls now. We understand that people move. We're not a slave society. We are a competitive, entrepreneurial and capitalist society, and we have to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, I like when people are loyal, and I want to keep them. I try to make it worth their while. I like them involved in my process. And if they do and they want to stay, I want them to be there. And they should always know that I appreciate my team members a lot.
Yeah.
I can't do without them, and I'm not going to.
I had a conversation recently with someone who had retired from a major utility company after 43 years of being with that company. And I said, gosh, that's amazing. I said, no one wants to do that anymore. And his response surprised me a little bit. I thought it was going to be, yeah, when I started, you were loyal to a company. And he said, well, no, why would they? When I started with this utility company, I was essentially guaranteed when I retired a pension for the rest of my, I'd be making what I made and insurance and all that. And he said, nobody can do that. Why would anybody stay? And I thought that was so interesting to hear that, because we talk about it kind of as a cultural thing, not as an economic thing. So,
well, it's both. It's
yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Don't think it's not. It's both.
Yeah.
You can be so rich and so miserable.
Yeah, that's right.
Because where you are is just horror show wherever you go.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who start their own businesses. They start their own businesses not because they're going to work less.
Yeah.
But they're going to work more, but they're going to like it more because they are more involved in it, because they like it. It's important to them. And I think that is a very important part of the workplace, is that you have to have people who want to be there.
Yeah.
And it's not only the money, but you also have the culture that you care about your people and that you are understanding of their situations.
I think you have to balance between good atmosphere so they feel happy, but then on the other side, you have to get work done too. So you have to kind of balance that.
Yeah.
That's what works the best, I think.
Absolutely. Well, if they're not working, then they can't. It's not a good thing.
I had one manager, he gets carried away with giving good atmosphere, and I'm like, no, we have to run the business here.
Yeah.
So I think it's balancing, give them good time, having fun working, but then work has to be done too,
Right.
Sure.
And when you need a good lawyer, give me a call.
On the contrary, I'm gonna need you to talk to you after we're done here.
But but very seriously, nobody works because, people work because they have to. And it depends upon where you are in the workplace. If you just start out, you're not going to be the president of the company. I know a lot of young people think they can do that, but it doesn't work that way. It takes time to get the experience and the acumen. But I think, like I said, and I think everybody here would agree, you got to like what you do, because otherwise you're not going to stay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So building on that a little bit, or maybe not even building, or maybe even doing a deeper dive into it. So much of building culture and building a team is all based around communication, and One of the things I have admired about just about every lawyer that I have known or worked with is their ability to say, your baby's ugly. Tell them the thing that they don't want to hear, but they have to hear. Because so when you think about communication as you're approaching the work, are there tools that you use that that you find more effective than others? I mean, I think everybody in here probably struggles with having that tough conversation. What are some of the tools that you use in that approach?
You just got to suck it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant to tell somebody they're not going to be working for you anymore. It's not pleasant to tell a client that they don't have a case. It's not pleasant to say, you might want to take this because it's going to be a problem. It's tough to tell people things that they do not want to hear. And as I've been doing this for so many years, I tell people, I got to tell you something. And you're in the no BS zone. And I say the whole word. I say, you're in the no BS zone. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. I don't have time or inclination to baby you or do things that are not true. You need to hear the truth. You've got to hear the truth. And if you don't want to hear the truth, then you don't have to be listening to me. And I'm not to say that I'm not sympathetic or that I don't care. I do care, but they have to know the truth. And as a lawyer, especially one who works on contingency generally, I'm your partner. So I'm not going to take cases that I can't get compensated for. It's funny. People come in and say, it's not about the money. I'm doing this because it's wrong or it's whatever. I say, yeah, I understand. You could take all of it, they say. I say, I can't take all of it. I said, that's not ethical for me to take all of it. I'm not going to take all of it. This is what I charge. This is what we're going to do. We go through the process. 2 years later, I give them a settlement sheet. You know what they say? You're taking that much? It happens a lot.
Not about
Sure.
It's not about the money, but it's always about the money. And it's always about the money when it comes to personal injury, because I can't change time.
Right.
I can only give you money to make things better. I might be able to give you more information on your medical condition or your future needs or the things of that nature. But it only comes down to the fact that I can only give you money. So if I can only give you money and I'm in the business that I have to put the lights on, Georgia Power is a great company, but they do like to get paid. My employees like to get paid. They get paid before I do. And that's another part of leadership. Pay your employees first. You can't run a business unless you have people helping you. Understand that. They come first, you come second. Your client comes first, you come second. And if you do that, then you're going to be in a lot better position than if you feel the other way. So, yeah, I mean, you have to tell people the truth. You tell your employees the truth. You really screwed up on that one. You need to do better. You don't hit them over the head with, babe, you're terrible, go back 16 times. You're the worst thing. You can't do stuff like that. But you can give corrective information, and hopefully you don't have that problem again.
The term, I think, is honest is kind.
Well, I'd say brutally honest is what a lot of people say.
Well, but that's often, not often, it's almost always kind. The unkind thing is hiding it.
Well, what was that song, Cruel to Be Kind?
Yeah, that's right. So, I suspect everybody in here feels every day pulled in a million different directions, 1,000 different projects. You've described, you've got real estate interests and working in that area. You've got a bunch of different clients you're working on, being a showrunner. I thought that was great. How do you find that balance? How do you, and you're also running back and forth to Dahlonega and married and, keeping a family life going. What is your approach to that? How do you prioritize and still keep it all going?
Well, I got to tell you, I think that it's like people have to understand their business has to eat. And without the business, you don't have the rest of it. So you have to prioritize understanding that the monster has to eat and that you have to spend the time with the monster, which is your business, in order to make sure that you do have a home life that you do pay your bills, that you do take care of your business, because without that organization, without that income, most folks, including me, need to have that in order to make things run. And that means having a nice home, taking care of my kids, traveling with my wife, having a balance with regard to that. I think as we get older and as we're more established, we can take more time. But when you're younger, you can't take the time. So you have to understand. What I do is I compartmentalize my life. I try not to involve my wife or my family with the legal cases I have. People come up to her all the time and say, you know what, your husband's handling my case. And she says, huh? Who are you? I don't know. What are you talking about? I never discuss my business, my legal business outside of the law firm. I'm not here to go ahead and talk about your case. I can't. I won't. I don't like to do things like that. So I like to compartmentalize my life so I know that I can handle what I need to handle. And I got to tell you something, these cases are very emotional cases. We handle very complex and very disturbing cases, which you cannot allow yourself to really feel until you get into trial. So you're going to be very circumspect. You've got to be very compartmentalized as an attorney when you're handling the type of work that we handle. I mean, we handle everything from wrongful death to rape to things like that, that absolutely are very disturbing. So you have to be strong yourself, understand you have a really good family. I've been married now 37 years. I'm not looking for another wife, thankfully. And as my wife says, this is my first husband.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
And this is my first wife. So it's important to understand that lawyers, unlike other people, have confidences and fiduciary responsibilities to people. I represent the sheriff of Forsyth County. I'm not the leader in that organization. I take direction, and I take direction from the sheriff. I can tell him what I think, but he makes a decision and all of that. I never discuss what I discuss with my clients, with the sheriff, with anybody outside of that confines of that conversation with that individual. So you have to compartmentalize and comport yourself professionally to make sure that you don't reveal things you should not be revealing.
Sure. Very good. So,
but that doesn't mean you don't spend time with your wife and your family
Sure, yeah.
and doing the stuff that you enjoy and giving yourself that time.
Yeah.
And I would say every business owner, I'm sorry to,
No, that's
every business owner needs to make time. And when I was younger, and this is for young moms, so who's ever listening, which is nobody, but for young moms and dads, they need to make time for themselves that they can go away every 3 months, just the two of them. They're the team. And if they can do that and let somebody watch the children, hopefully they have a decent mother or father-in-law or mom and dad who take time doing that, they then rediscover each other. And they're the team, because children are great about dividing people.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So, anyway.
So, along those lines, so you came to Atlanta, I think you said in 1977. If you
Yeah.
can get in a time machine and meet yourself in 1977, starting your career here, what would you tell 1977 Steven Leibel?
Do the TV advertising.
Introduce yourself to Ted. Oh, that's great. Great. Well, I mean, are there things that, I mean, everybody does, of course. They look back and they're like, what are some of the most important things that I imagine coming from New York to Atlanta, especially Atlanta in 1977, was a bit of a culture shock. But looking back on it, are there things that you would you really wish you had known, and or what are maybe the top 3 or 4 of those?
Well, it's funny. It's not about what I would have done.
Yeah.
I think what I did was fine, and it was a process, and it gave me a lot of knowledge, and I think it's made me a better person and a better lawyer. But what I would have liked to have known are things that I don't know, that I know now financially. that I had no idea about then.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example. I probably would have gotten whole life insurance
Yeah.
at that point in time in my life and developed, of course, it would have been very difficult, but I would have been able to do that. I would have learned more about IRAs and Roth IRAs for retirement. I would have done more of a planning of things like that are really unknown to people. Like, for example, the medical health savings accounts. I didn't know about health savings. That is the greatest IRA in the world. I had no idea. Those are the things I found out about much later. I didn't know about mortgages. I started learning about that. I didn't have the financial acumen that I have now.
Yeah.
And I learned that over the years, but if I had known a little bit more, it would have been helpful. That
Sure.
wouldn't have been, it's not a game changer, but it would have been helpful. So when I speak with younger lawyers and business people, I want them to know about a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. I want them to know about SEP IRAs if they're interested in that. There are things that they need to meet with a financial planner who could really help them. I'm not that guy, but I would direct them to somebody who really understands. And I would also want more interaction with people about planning. I like to talk to business people about, and here I'm a personal injury lawyer, right? But I talk to people about insurance.
Yeah.
Every one of you needs to check your insurance policy. It's probably inadequate. Everyone's told they have full coverage. They don't. Everyone is told that they have this and that. They have no idea. 1 out of every 4 drivers in Georgia does not have any insurance. And the minimum limits are $25.50, which means the most you'll get per person is $25,000 regardless. It won't be enough to even cover your car to go ahead and get it fixed. Those are the things that I wish I had known early on, but now I know them. So I can impart that information to others. So you ask what you want. I'm okay with what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't have gone in with a defense lawyer. I mean, so what? You learn
Sure,
those things. But you learn a lot from not being where you want to be also. You learn a lot from your mistakes.
Yeah.
When you go and are perfect all the time, you don't learn anything.
Right.
It's like, oh God, that happened. Now how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. That's right. Well, and along those lines, so then who do you look to for, we were talking earlier about mentorship and it sounds like you do a lot of mentoring yourself for others, which is phenomenal. Who do you look to? Who are the folks or resources? Maybe it's books or whatever, but what is it that where do you turn for that kind of growth and development?
I talk to friends. I mean, at this point, it's friendships versus mentorship. I'm too late in my career right now to have mentors because I've already done a lot of the stuff. I become the mentor now. But I like to be mentored by members of my team, for example. It's not mentorship. It's communication and understanding. I'm very fortunate. I have a physician attorney in my office. And we always joke, so what do you know about medicine? He says, well, I'm a doctor. I said, oh yeah. So those are the things that we can talk about and things that I can learn about from somebody else. But as far as, and I could also read things, you watch seminars, for example, you can watch a trial that somebody else has done. And I look at it and say, well, that's interesting. Pick up a tip here and there. You utilize seminars. People should go to professional development seminars. You can learn, if you pick up one thing in a seminar, it's worth the money and the time. So those are things that you do, but the mentorship, not so much anymore. I'm not in the beginning of my career anymore. I'm the guy who has to mentor now. I have a young woman who works for me now. I love working with her. I love teaching her she's going to go to law school next year, hopefully. I want to teach her what it's like to be an associate. I want her to know about that. I've been very fortunate. My first intern became the chief judge of the North Carolina Supreme Court. I've had other ones who've gone to Harvard and clerked for the Ninth Circuit. And I've had others who is now in the Eastern District of Tennessee, clerking for a federal judge.
Yeah.
All people came out of my shop. I'm proud of every one of them. I've had partners in major law firms. It's stuff that you see, you're not expecting them to come back. You want to know that they've been on their way. I'm not their best friend. I never want to be. I want them to be successful. I want them to grow. And I want them to start in the right direction. My first intern, however, now is the dean of a law school, and I'm possibly going to do some faculty type stuff with them. But that's to teach people how to try cases.
Yeah. So have you done teaching before? Is that?
I did it at University of North Georgia on leadership.
Yeah.
I would say it was a miserable experience.
Or you or the students?
So what made it miserable? Like what?
Well, remember one thing, it was a required course.
Okay.
So they had to be there.
Yeah.
You know, if they have to be there, it's not so great. And I've also taught at Emory trial techniques, and it was all right. But I really prefer having somebody within the confines of my office that I could really teach them and have them involved in the case. And then they really love it, or they don't. And if they don't love it, you know you're in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
I want motivated people. I think the key is that you have to be motivated.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of folks who are just not motivated.
That's right.
They want a paycheck and they want to go home, and their motivation is different than mine. That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, some people are that way. Some people are not.
Yeah.
You're motivated. You're here, right?
Yeah.
I'm motivated. I'm here. They're motivated, and we're all here for the sandwich. I think that's really, but you know.
Of course.
Well, let's do this. I want to check in before we're kind of winding down the last few minutes. So I just want to make sure, do you all have questions or anything you?
I have a question. In your life, obviously, well, I don't know, but you have like type of case you don't really like, I don't want to work in this case.
Oh,
Like,
I'm going to tell you a story about that. So when
Okay,
I first got
please.
out, started my own practice, I got a phone call and said, "Do you handle divorces?" I said, "I handle anything," because I had just started. So I said, "What kind of case is it?" And he said, "Uncontested." I said, "My case, $500." Every day he called. Every single day. "She wants this." I said, "Give it to her." "She wants that." "Give it to her." "She wants this." "Give it to her." Finally says, "She wants my grandmother's dish towels," or something like that. I said, "That's where we draw the line." And I said to myself, I'm never going to handle this again. All right. So the next thing I get is a phone call. A guy wants to do an adoption. I said, "Fine." "How much?" $600. I went up from the 500 to the 600. The baby's father murdered the baby's mother, and the grandparents wanted to adopt the child, and he fought it while he was in jail. That took me for $600 on a road that I had to go to trial on and everything else. But there was a silver lining. The judge I was before and found not that the mother was killed, that was okay, but that he was smoking marijuana in front of the baby, and that's why he lost his parental rights. He became a Supreme Court judge, and we had kept in touch. And ultimately, the Supreme Court came to Dahlonega many years ago, and he was one of them who came to Dahlonega, all because of that relationship of my doing that adoption, which I will never do again. And those are the things that you learn as you go through the practice, that there are things you do not want to do.
And I have another question. How you do, because you say you have case like, violence and that kind of things. How, because at the end you say something, we are humans, we have emotions. So sometimes, well, I was working with non-profit organization for a few years. And for me, it was so difficult to separate sometimes, like, wow, that person can be my sister, my nephews, my family or friend, and it's hard, and don't really like know it like in the way you have to know them.
You have to separate it. You
How?
you have to be looking at it from a clinical, like almost like a clinical perspective. When a doctor sees somebody and they examine them, they can't feel their pain. They understand the pain, but they can't feel it with them. You can be empathetic and understand how somebody is and say, "I'm going to do the best I can for you." But you have to separate yourself so that you can do it in a way that makes sense and can accomplish the goal of helping them. So you have to separate that from how you feel But when you go to trial, you can feel it. You can allow yourself to feel the pain. You can allow yourself at that moment when you're advocating for them to really feel what they've been through and to express that to the jury. I had a case just a couple of weeks ago where I had the death of a 22-year-old boy in an auto accident. And I almost really lost it. I mean, it was such a nice young man and such a good person. And here you're telling the story of this person. And then you choke up. But up until that point, keep it to the side.
So first you have to work with brain, then you can
Then
work
you
with
work with
heart.
heart. Right,
If you get emotional, you cannot fight for them.
right. You can't win.
Okay.
Then you're just them. You're just a
So like you, like leader, how you, because sometimes person who works with you or for you can have that deal, you know, in their mind, like, hey, I have this case, complicated, how you guide them? Because, okay, you can obviously can control your emotions, your things and separate, but how you guide someone to,
do the same.
yeah.
Because most of it's paperwork. Most of it's not, you're not dealing with the person, you're dealing with the medical record, or you're dealing with the prognosis, or you're dealing with what's going to happen next
Yeah.
without having the interaction directly with the family. We have a case now where we're dealing more with this young man who is going to die from malpractice. It's a cancer type case. And there's more interaction with the family. But my staff doesn't have as much interaction, or the people who are doing the paperwork are not going to have as much interaction.
Okay.
So
I
that's
think
how,
as a lawyer, you can do better job if you don't get emotionally involved.
well, you can't do your job if you're emotionally involved.
Right.
It's until you're in trial.
Correct.
What else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about trust, like how you think about building trust with clients, maintaining that trust over time, and then, you know, how to avoid breaking trust too. And I heard someone say once, you know, every business is in the trust business. I think it's an interesting perspective on.
I think that's exactly right. I think, first of all, believe it or not, the first thing you have to do is talk about fees. You have to tell people what it's going to cost. This is what to expect. We're telling you what it is. You should know this, that we upfront the fees for you, not the fees, but expenses. We expect you to get paid back from your share of the recovery. And you have to be very, very clear with people. It's in the contract because they will forget, but it's in the contract, and you say, this is what it is, and ask them, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, you call me at any time. If you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I will not answer the phone, but I will get back with you. And the truth is that it's all about the communication creates the trust. How do you break trust? You break trust by not doing what you say you're going to do. And that's a real key also in leadership, I think, is that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I actually will do it. If I can't do it, I will tell you I can't do it. I think that's part of that your word is important, trust. And then finally breaking trust, you lie to them.
Yeah.
You tell them, I told you this, and now I'm not going to do it. You talk about fees, you talk about trust, you talk about what's going to happen next, and you prepare them as best as you can. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's, to me, the communication is the trust.
Yeah.
Because what else you got? Your word is good. Look them in the eye. Don't go like this. Like you're shifty. Look them in the eye. And by the way, I learned a trick. Look at you in one eye. Because if you look in both eyes, you're going like this. So it's not a good idea.
Or that spot in the middle of the forehead.
That's good. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Steven, thank you so much. Just to kind of close us out for today, you know, I don't think anybody else in here is an attorney. Not so much from a legal perspective, but more from just a leadership development perspective. If you could leave folks with one important thing that you've learned as a lawyer in a leadership position, what could you leave folks with?
Keep your word. That's it. Keep your word. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. Don't fool around with it. And also the other thing is, whatever you do is a reflection on you. So if I build a building, it's a reflection on me. If I'm a landlord, I don't want to cheap out on it. I want to be able to do something with quality. Everything you do is a reflection of who you are and what you are.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people take a lot of shortcuts and it comes and bites them in the shorts, so to speak.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to understand that things cost things and you got to pay it. And if you can't do it, don't do it, but do something else. Set the goal. Set your goal and try to achieve your goal. But when you're setting your goal, make sure it's an achievable goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I'll tell you one thing, and that's it. I started a bank. Guy says to me, "Do you know how to start a bank?" I said, "Sure." I didn't know how to start a bank, but I learned how to do it. And I did it because I thought I really could. And I looked at all the steps and I learned how to do it. Don't be afraid of taking on a new project. Just make sure that whatever you do in this world, you do it so that it's better than when you came to this world. That's really what it is. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
When I leave something that I've done, when I touch it, I want it to be better than when it was before. So that's my advice to every business person.
And clearly you have done that repeatedly. You've got a great legacy in that.
Well, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm still not finished. So, and I think that that's really another part is never lose your optimism. I think a lot of people, as they age, they feel like, oh, well, it's the end of the road. I think as you age, you can age well, and you have to be optimistic and have an optimistic spirit, because otherwise, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You know? So anyway, that's my opinion. I look forward to interacting with all these folks now that I'm off the hot seat.
Y'all, thank you for coming. Just a few, and thank you again. And yes, certainly you'll feel free to hang around as long as I'm sure he's got other billable hours that he's got to try.
Well, you know, I work on
But
contingencies.
okay, there. So I just wanted to remind everybody, we have a few things coming up. The Women Connect wine tasting is on the 21st, and that is on Apricot Lane. We're hosting an event that it's an economic forecast, but it is focused on the state of commercial space. There's a lot going on right now in both the local economy and the national economy when it comes to all things commercial space. So we have a phenomenal speaker who is a really sought after expert in that, who's coming to speak. That's on the 22nd. And then the next P&L is at Hop Dottie. I keep saying Hop Daddy, but it's an O instead of an A. Hop Dottie Burger Bar, which used to be Grub Burger, at the Collection on the 27th. So y'all can join us for any or all of those things. Please do. So, and Jesse is working on scheduling the September Leadership Lab. We're starting to get into the fall's bonkers, and I'm sure you'll have bonkers falls too, with sports and all the stuff that comes along with that. So we're getting into that season, but we'll have an announcement about that in the next week or so. So thank you all for joining us. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done.